Hello, Sharif here. And today is actually the last day of our 7 week cycle on the end of our future, the beginning of our future. So today I'm going to try to do both the end and the beginning, focusing on, and we've been focusing the last couple of weeks on our near end future, our 100 to 200 year future, our 200 to 1,000 year future, and this is beyond 1,000 years. Why are we even talking about that? Because we do talk about it, and I'll be telling you more about what we do when we're talking about it, how it reinforces our old thinking, and how it denies our new consciousness. But before we get into any of that, let's go ahead and do our very normal meditation. I'm going to invite you to meditate with me. And I'm going to pull up our candle so that we can have something to focus our meditation if you don't want to close your eyes. I'm going to start our timer for 5 minutes. I am going to close my eyes. I'm going to invite each of us to take 3 deep breaths and let out the breath audibly. And I'm going to invite you to come back to our center. And I'm going to invite you to open your eyes. And I'm going to invite you to put on your glasses if you took them off. And I want to talk a little bit about what we're doing today. And that is getting us focused on, I'm saying beyond 1,000 years, but it's basically whenever the the aliens, the ETs, the beings that are not terrestrial, um, when however they show up, okay, and uh, how will we meet them? How will we greet them? How will we interact with them? Well, some of that has to do with them, and a lot of it, most of it, has to do with us, with how we see ourselves, how we see each other, how we see the other, and what are the relationships between all of those things. Um, this is the last week of our series. This is the last day of our series. So if you haven't by now, like it. Liking is really good. Um, if you haven't done it by now, subscribe, because if you are subscribed, you'll automatically get notification of the next series, which starts in May. If you don't subscribe, you will not get automatic notification. Um, and I think it promises to be interesting. Um, in terms of how we look at the world, look what we are expecting from the world in terms of uh, the next step, what happens when we have contact. We have been speculating about um, being citizens of a larger world for a long time. We've been speculating about that um, since we could write, and especially since we started having movies, and whether we see the other as a threat, or whether we see the other as a possible partner, has to do, not with them, but has to do with ourselves. We have there's been a pretty much a consensus on how we see um, beings that are not like us. Number one, they're monstrous. I'm really, really hard pressed to think of any science fiction book or movie. I shouldn't say science fiction, a future alternative scenario. Um, I'm very hard pressed to think of any of them that are beautiful. Number two, they're always belligerent. They always have an evil intent. They're the ones that start the fight. Number three, humanity prevails in some way. We always win, with a couple of exceptions. We win because of the bravery of some individuals, or because, in the case of War of the Worlds, really dumb luck that we had nothing to do with. And so the thing I want us to focus on is, how do we see them? We can go back to the 40s and 50s with images like the day the earth stood still. Now, I think this is really interesting, because for those of us who saw the movie, and if you didn't, it's an excellent movie. I think it's one of my high points in science fiction. Nothing that you see in that poster happened on the screen. This metallic robot picking up the blonde woman. That actually there are no blondes in the movie, um, and uh, looking lustfully with his laser eye at while killing all the soldiers, which he didn't do. And I grew up with this. You know, I'm of the generation that knows what Klaatu Narada Nikto means, and um, and from a very early age, we were afraid of the other, whoever that other may be. Also, in that alignment, in that worldview, Forbidden Planet. Oh, gee, another scantily clad blonde being menaced by, of all beings, Robbie the robot. Now, if for those of us who remember Robbie, Robbie was really benign and very helpful, etc. And look at how they drew him to have kind of like these sinister eyes and malevolent mouth and um, shaping your thought process, shaping how you see the world. Okay. Um, War of the Worlds. This is the one where we win, but by accident. And this is the threat here is cold, dispassionate technology. Their technology is never ruffled. They never look like they're angry or anything like that. They look like they're just exterminating insects. Again, from the perspective of those of us who are watching it, you can be afraid of the other. Oh, and of course, the king of them all, Godzilla, and it's alive. And Godzilla's been alive for a long, long time. When you actually go back and look at the original Godzilla and actually understand the story, it's morphed a lot over the years. But Godzilla has always been a threat. Now, it was clear in the early the first Godzilla, the first few Godzillas, that the threat was from humanity, and then especially the nuclear weapons, which were brand new at the time, that created that morphed Godzilla into the killing machine that it became. I'm fast forwarding through several decades. I mean, at some point in time, maybe I'll do a full expose on the consciousness, the breaker consciousness as exemplified by our future histories, our alternate histories. But I'm jumping ahead here, and you'll remember Independence Day. They come, they never talk to us, they never try to communicate with us. The only thing they do is start blasting our cities. For all of these aliens, they're monstrous. Now, I'm not calling Michael Rennie in Day the Earth Stood Still monstrous, but he definitely had the monstrous partner in Gort. What a name! I mean, Gort, and so the monster is there and is with us all the way up to in this case with the Edge of Tomorrow. the people who are saving us are in some part monstrous. I mean, they're wearing these exosuits and they're kind of clunking around. The alien, I went through a bunch of posters. They never show the alien. For those of us who saw the movie, that's a really monstrous alien. And I think the reason they don't show it is that it was just so fast, which was another thing that I freaked me out when I saw it for the first time. Um, as I indicated, I think that there are a few movies that are that don't fit that mold. In a way, The Day the Earth Stood Still was Michael Rennie coming down and basically saying, y'all need to get your fecal matter together, or we're going to come here and clean house. Definitely a threat. Kind of stopping the world's electrical activity for 24 hours or actually for 30 minutes was also a threat. Like, look what we can do. And it never says how humanity, how the breakers responded to that threat. My guess, given breaker consciousness, is gee whiz, we're going to have to up our technological game so that we can kick their butt. Because kicking butt for the response to something being new and us wanting to turn around and kick its butt is very, very typical. So that's the monstrous alien, belligerent, evil intent. We will prevail, and we prevail because of the bravery of some individuals. We prevail because of the bravery of Tom Cruise in Edge of Tomorrow. We prevail because of the bravery of some individuals in both the original War of the Worlds, which was the best one, and the sequel with Tom Cruise, which was okay. But I think that there's some movies that pointed us in. I was about to say that pointed us in a different direction. I'm not sure Arrival pointed us in a different direction as much as pointing us in a direction that shows you don't know what the intention is. It's one thing for you to say they're monsters and they want to take over the earth and we have to defend ourselves. It's another thing to just assume because they don't act like us that they're monsters and they want to take over. They want to take all of your stuff and we've got to defeat them. If you go back, and again, I'm jumping around here to show you that this consciousness 1,000 years from now is the same consciousness we got right now. So if we're going to find a way of peace, we've got to find it right now and carry that with us into this 1,000-year future. In Arrival, and again, for those of you who haven't seen the movie, I think you should watch it. I think it's one of the best science fiction / alternate history, alternate future movies ever made. And that's saying a lot. But it changed all the assumptions on their heads. And first of all, I'm not going to get, because some of you may not have seen it, I'm not doing any spoilers. I'm trying not to do any spoilers. But the aliens, when they show up, are so obviously technologically superior. We don't really have a whole lot to say to them. They are clearly non-belligerent, and I'll leave that at that. On the cover of the for the poster, it's the question is, why are they here? And that's what they keep asking. Why are you here? Why are you here? What would happen if we asked a different question? What if we didn't ask a question at all? What if we just said, "Hey, welcome"? You know, it reminds me of a situation that I was in several years ago, and it reminds me of Sri Lanka. I was in I was going from one village to another, and I was in a Sarvodia vehicle, and there are long stretches of space between one village and another, and I had to go to the bathroom. I've been around the world enough times to understand that waiting for a rest area, whatever that is a very American reality. And your rest area is the nearest tree that you can find. And sometimes you don't find any trees, so you got to go, you got to go. So I told my driver I had to go, and he found me a really nice tree. And I'm at the tree, and some villagers pass by, and they look at me and they start trying to talk to me, and I don't understand a word they're saying. I asked my driver to translate for me, and they wanted something from me. And what they wanted was for me to come with them because they wanted to give me tea. And I was on time for my appointment, and I could stop for a while. And there's a part of me saying, the American part of me is saying, they want something from me. They want me they want me to support them in some way. They want to take something away from me. And I shut that part of me up, said yes, thank you to the tea. So my driver and I had to walk maybe a quarter of a mile. I thought they were right nearby. We had to walk back into past the patties, etc., and got to their place, which was a mud hut and with a mud floor, and we sat on the ground, and they made tea for us, and it was one of the most surreal aspects because they didn't they didn't want to ask me anything. They didn't want anything from me. They just wanted to look at me. Okay, so we spent time looking at each other and smiling and nodding and drinking tea. And when we finished, I said, we have to go. And they all, no, please stay for dinner. And I'm like, no, I can't stay for dinner. And they and another household walked us back to the road, and we all waved goodbye, and they never asked for a thing. And that was a really, really good experience that I had. When you don't have television, what do you do for entertainment? Well, here's this big black stranger peeing on my tree. So let's see if we can give him some tea and find out more about him. That's how we interact with beings from some other planet. For all they knew, I was from Venus. Okay, they had no idea what who I was, and uh, what made me a foot and a half taller than everybody else, etc. So our challenge is what's inside of you is how you're going to interact with the world. What's inside of you is how you're going to interact with the world over time. Now, another element that I talked about earlier is that the other in some way is monstrous, tentacles, and they're all like kind of reptilian and slimy. And um, if you saw the movie Alien, that alien morphed a couple of times in the movie. Each iteration of it, when it was on the guy's face, when it was running through the hallways, when it got to its final form, each morphing was monstrous. It's like, ooh, ooh, oh my goodness, And so, but a movie that bucked that trend, at least for me, um, was Avatar. Now, if you think of anything that deviates from human anatomy, human skin color, human. I'm gonna get specific in a few minutes here. Human characteristics and ways of behaving. If that's your standard for beauty, then the aliens in Avatar were not beautiful. Okay, if though you can get over that, and I would hope that anybody watching any of my stuff would get over that, you would be able to see that the aliens are beautiful in and of themselves, not because they look like humans, but beautiful in and of themselves. The blue color of their skin was not because it matches ours. It doesn't. Okay. Now the I think that's one of the things that makes the love story compelling. That in every way, oh no, that's not true. Um, in lots and lots of different ways, these folks don't match up. Um, she is twice the size of him. She can break him like a toothpick. She is um, would be seen as the dominant in the pair. And let me stop and make sure I'm not doing any spoilers. That's in the Avatar 1 is another movie that I would recommend for you. And one of the criticisms that I've heard for the movie, and this was very loudly expressed by my youngest daughter. When we disagree, we can get loud. She said, this was basically Pocahontas on another world. White folks come in and colonize the everything, and one of them falls in love with the princess, and she was a princess. And then there is all this other stuff that goes on. And in a way, she was right. I'm not sure I told her that. But the part of it is, can we get out of ourselves? Can we get out of our out of our reality? And can we get to the point where I can see the other simply as other and not see them as, because you don't look like me, there's something wrong with you? So, and um, I'm seeing that Eve just wrote a comment. Let me go a little bit further. I'm going to bring your comment in, and then I'm going to wrap up here. So I mentioned Avatar. I mentioned Arrival. Another movie that's an outlier from the ones that are kind of the standard alien monster movie, etc., is District 9. And if you haven't seen District 9, that's a really difficult watch for me. I've only seen it, I think, twice. I watch movies over and over again because I want to get more out of it. But I've only wrung that one out. And actually, I think I've only watched it once. It's an amazing movie, but a difficult one to watch. In this one, the aliens clearly come to the planet in need. They need us. And we have the opportunity to rise to the occasion. And we don't in very profound ways. Okay. Now that I've got two comments here, let me start with Eve. And it pushed the right button and it works. So Eve says, will fear of the other prevail or curiosity take precedence? Breakers will likely pretend they violated our airspace so that they are a menace, so that we have to strike back. That's what breakers will do. And that's why we need to make sure that that breakers are not in the position to inflict their mindset on others. And those others we don't have to wait for them to show up in order for them to exercise that fear of the other, fear of the unknown, or we don't have to wait for them to. We don't have to wait for our response. We can make that response right now. And what I'm thinking about is how we are interacting with our present ETs, and that means the people we call immigrants, people who we call the terrestrial aliens, who, according to some people, are just here because they want all of our stuff, they want all of our welfare programs, and then conversely, and in conflict, they want to take all of our jobs. They're completely hostile. We can't talk to them, and therefore we should build borders up and fences, or we should kill them. On the one hand, and there are no simplistic answers to this. We have to be paying attention and be completely nuanced and recognize that there are issues on both sides. On the one hand, putting up borders and fences and holding guns on hungry people is not a good idea. It's not. On the other hand, taking all the borders down and saying, "Come on in with open arms," is an equally bad idea. This actually happened in Ethiopia some years ago. We were there pretending that we were going to give aid to people, and we would set up these aid stations, and hungry, starving people, when they heard there was an aid station, when they heard there was food there, acted like hungry, starving people. We've seen this happening in Gaza right now in real time. They will storm that aid station. They will fight each other. They'll fight the people trying to give them the aid. Um, and of course, the U.S. response was really, really clear. Put a whole bunch of folks with guns, with a whole bunch, and pointing at hungry, starving women and children, and realizing if someone is dying of starvation, pointing a gun at them won't stop them. Somebody figured out that putting all the food in one location made no sense. So they created 10 or 20 different distribution stations. We put some food here, some food here, some food here, and people didn't have to all go running, like to get this little drip or drab from here. They could space themselves out, etc. I've done a number of I've been to a number of refugee camps. I've seen how aid is done in a humane way. I've also seen it done in a top heavy way. And so we couldn't do that. One of my students some years ago said, if you take all the things that that people who want to get into the United States find out what they want, and then give it to them, but give it to them in Mexico. They don't care what side of the border they are on. They care whether they can feed their children. They care whether they can live a decent life. And if we can figure that out and just do the decent life in Mexico, well, I actually, I don't talk about immigrants. I talk with them, and I would say 8 times out of 10, what the folks want is the food, is the chance to work. And if you provided that for them in Mexico, they would be happy not to leave their country. I could keep going, and I'm not. Okay. Jane has a question. Did you mention E.T. already? Because E.T. was the hero protagonist, and the humans were a mixed bag. No, I didn't talk about E.T. Not one of my favorite movies. It's a good kids movie. That I don't think there was much that was profound about it. I may be opening myself up to the floodgates of all of the ET lovers who tear up when he says ET phone home. I wasn't one of them. That said, here's a question, and we notice this in every one of these movies that I've mentioned. The first people on the scene, and maybe even the only people on the scene, were the military. First folks that show up in War of the Worlds, first folks that show up in The Day the Earth Stood Still, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. On Forbidden Planet, these are the folks that went to the Forbidden Planet, the military folks. Why don't we have regular people that actually show up? why don't we decide right now? Okay, this is end of April 2024. Who gets to be on the selection committee for who shows up when ET comes calling? Well, we have to leave it up to the military because they're the only ones that know what they're doing. Um, give me some evidence that the military actually knows what it's doing. Um, so the challenge is right now, if I asked you, there are 20 slots that the aliens have said, we want to see 20 representatives of humanity. Who would you choose? If it's not the militaries, they're also the religious figures. You want the Pope to go. You want the I think that's about it. You want I would want, and the reason I'm thinking, I would want Steven Spielberg to go. On both ends of the spectrum, he's thought about what the monstrous aliens would be about, and he's also thought about what the peace-loving, I just want to get home aliens would be about. Who else would want to be there? Who else would be there? Now we would select. No, I'm sorry. Breakers would select military folks, Elon Musk, only because he's rich, and that's about it. And so we need to have a whole other way of doing that. Jane's question triggered another response, and I'm thinking about the movie The Shape of Water, and again, the hero protagonist is not the human being. Hero, protagonist, and lover. And the human, oh, I'm sorry, the other folks that show up are the scientists in cahoots with the military folks. I'm sorry, another thought that just came up. I'm going to have to stop thinking because we could be here for hours. Not only is it the military people who show up, it's the men who show up. And in The Shape of Water, one of the people who shows up is a woman and has a very different relationship to the other being. Similarly, in Arrival, it's the woman not carrying a gun who really, as they quote in the movie, she puts them all to shame. And so who do we want? I mean, my first thing was, okay, half of you are going to be women. Half of the group, so 20, we need 10 women to show up to do this. Which 10 would I choose? Off the top of my head, okay, Jane Goodall would be one of the leading folks because she spent so much time not talking to human beings. I would also say that a number of people in that group would need to be raised in an indigenous relationship to the earth. I have the feeling that those are the people that the aliens would want to talk to anyway. I am, and as soon as I just say those two things, that group looks a lot different from what the breakers would want to have happen. The people who could understand the language of the extraterrestrial alien and also our terrestrial aliens. Um, I I know of people who tried to walk their way into Europe. Most folks are getting on leaky boats and rubber rafts and trying to float their way across across the Mediterranean from North Africa. But I knew folks who tried to walk there from Sri Lanka, through India, through Eastern Europe, etc. And one guy from Sri Lanka wound up getting arrested in Estonia. So he's in jail. He can't talk to anybody. People don't know even what language he's speaking. Um, and he's in a country he's never even heard of. He doesn't want to be in that country. He wants to go through that country, and he can't articulate that. And the folks in Estonia won't let him through. And so this is the mess because we keep ourselves um, away from each other and separated from each other. Okay, guess what? I'm over time again. I know you're all shocked. Um, so the the bottom line, the way we will treat extraterrestrials is the way we will treat other human beings. The way we will treat other human beings is basically the way that we will treat ourselves. We're going to treat them, the other, as monsters. We're going to treat them as a threat. We're going to treat them as dangerous. And we're going to confront them as individuals, as I am here, I'm going to protect my rights, and I'm going to inflict myself on the other. Or we're going to treat the extraterrestrials as we treat other humans, as beings that are beautiful and worthy in and of their own right, even if they don't look like us. And I'm thinking specifically of the cetaceans, the whales and the dolphins. And you look at a whale, there's almost no correlation between a whale or a dolphin and a human being. Legs, arms, total living environment, water versus air. But they may be in terms of intelligence. Well, we may be in terms of intelligence. Those are our closest ancestors on the intelligence scale, way above us, of course. But we should be learning from them. So instead of looking at them as monsters, we should be looking at them as beautiful beings in and of their own right. Instead of assuming that they are a threat, you should assume that they have the potential of being a friend. When the family invited me to tea at their hut, I could have pulled out my AK-47 and killed all of them, okay, because they were trying to get my car. If I had that mentality. If I had that mentality. Instead, they looked at me as a curiosity, and like, let's give him some tea and see what he does. I said thank you, and I drank it, which means that the next time we would interact, it would go even better, even smoother. You look at how the native people around the world, the keepers around the world, interacted with the Europeans when the Europeans showed up around the world, from around the world. 99 times out of 100, the response was, have some tea. And when they saw the Europeans that came to North America starving to death. You need some food. So here's some food. And in that way, establishing relationships, but based on mutual trust, based on mutual compassion, etc. When we talk about learning how to do things, it's not that we need to learn. We already know how to do it. We need just to pay attention to the right group. And the last thing in terms of they were confront, the breakers would confront the ETs as individuals. We need to confront them as a holonic unity. We need to confront them as one. It's not my question in terms of how to confront them or how to interact with them. It's not even a confrontation. It's how do we, all of us together, come together and learn that together is just a little bit bigger than what we were expecting. Okay. I really appreciate doing this with you. I appreciate the questions and comments that we've gotten. I appreciate those of you who said that you liked this and who signed up, who subscribed to it. I am looking forward to the next series, which starts on the 7th of May. And I'll give you a lot more details on that as we're going forward. For the last time on this series, I'm going to invite us to to do our inclusivity mantra, to do our inclusivity prayer, to do our inclusivity reminder for ourselves, starting first with ourselves, starting then with the other, whoever the other may be, going to all of us together who are trying to bring in a world that works for all beings, and then to honor all of those beings. So, may I be well, may I be secure, may I be happy. May you be well, may you be secure, may you be happy. May we be well, may we be secure, may we be happy. And may all beings be well. May all beings be secure. May all beings be happy. Thanks a lot, and look forward to seeing all of you in May. Thank you. Bye.